Okay, welcome back. Congratulations, Utahime. That seems, you know, destined, I think, for tonight. You
Amazing.
won the giveaway, so go ahead and message Chris in our Discord to find out what you won or pick. Well, I don't know how any of that works. Anyway, welcome back. We are with our guests. I will let them introduce themselves, do all the socials and stuff. But first up, Lizzy.
Hey, yeah, I'm Lizzy Donahue. You can find me at the Lizzy LD on Instagram and Twitter. That's Lizzy with a Y, LD. Yeah, I'm really excited to play Wizards tonight. I play Lily of House Silverthorn, and I am best friends with Thegan.
Best.
And and I play Nafako on Wednesday nights in Realms of Ukador, and I'm really excited to talk about our characters.
Perfect. Eddie.
Hi, everyone. Eddie Gilbert. You can find me in all the various social medias at Discount Bard. I'm also on Twitch as well as a streamer, and you can find me here on Wizards of Ukador as Ebdar, Frostbane, and on Realms of Ukador as Eclipse.
Perfect. And small shout out to Eddie's stream. They just played Sea of Thieves with two members of our crew here, and it was a lot of fun. Okay, cool. So you were on there today too, weren't you? You were playing Hades?
Oh, yeah, I was doing Hades today. Game's so close to finishing.
So close. Oh,
So
God,
close.
that loss. Oh.
All right, cool. So what we're gonna do? I mean, you guys have been heard before, so you know I don't do transitions. We'll just bounce questions back and forth. We got a lot of good ones. I'm actually I didn't really even separate them, so we'll kind of just preface some of these because they go sort of back and forth between Wizards characters and Realms characters. So we'll just kind of see what happens. Okay, so the first question is for Eddie. Is there a scenario that Eclipse wouldn't recommend killing someone to fix? This is by Ferrex, by the way.
Is there a scenario that Eclipse wouldn't kill someone to fix? Yes, pretty much. If it's someone that Eclipse actually cares about, which is a very small list, but that list is slowly growing.
Sure.
And also if they serve a greater purpose alive.
Yeah, I was going to say, because a good example of that would be this episode, right? I mean, you didn't want to outright kill the robots just to get off the train. You actually thought it through and was like, oh, we could use these and that sort of thing. So
There'd be a slight bit of sympathy for their circumstance as well, but had they,
all right, I could see that.
Had they turned on them, there would have been no hesitation at ending them.
Of course. It's very cat response. Okay, cool. Okay, I gotta ask, who on earth is Glib?
Okay. So I'm not gonna lay out all the details, but the basic detail: Glib is a rambunctious 8-year-old goblin boy.
That's amazing.
Yes, who wanted to be the mightiest warrior in his village and is now trapped inside Nafako.
Oh my gosh.
I love that.
I don't even know how to process that. That's amazing.
It's
And terrible.
terrible. It's so sad. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
So that is the short answer, and that also answers one of the other questions I saw coming up, which is, are all of the people inside Nafako female? And the answer is no. Just most of them, but there's another male identifying person.
Okay. Cool. And I'm sure, obviously, for the people that want to know, we'll learn more about Glib and his backstory and all those sort of things later, of course. But that's amazing. I can't wait to see that explored. So he's
Glib
the
is
one.
one of my favorites. I'm so excited I get to play him. Although it's just like, oh no, now right after I gave a lecture, like, let's not alert anybody. Let's not. And then I'm like, oh god.
Yeah, worst case scenario.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to a sort of follow up, I guess, because that was a 1, like everyone knew, because you sort of announced it. Crap, it's a 1. Are the rolls the same? Like if you roll 1 anytime, it's going to be Glib.
So I generally, yes, I have like a chart written out in my D&D Beyond, which I think only I can see, of like who lands on each of the rolls, and it'll probably get adjusted over time, but
okay.
Generally,
because I just imagine like.
Yeah.
Ferrex or I trying to be like, okay, she said 3, so that means
right. Yeah. You could do that. It may, so like for like this next session, like Glib may end up taking 1 through 5 because everyone's going to try and take back control from Glib because that's terrible.
Oh yeah,
but
okay,
like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
they might.
Okay.
But like the 2 who haven't shown up are like on the 2 and the 3 generally.
Okay.
Because
All
they
right.
have. I have this whole mental map of like it's a weight of like who wants to show up the most. Like
Okay.
Light always wants to hang out with her brother. Nafika wants to hang out, and then like there's like whereas like Elida, the necromancer's actual daughter, does not want anything to do with the rest of the party because especially Eclipse,
she was very
because she
shunned.
saw him mutilate her father and has the most conflicted feelings about it, right?
Sure.
So
That's funny that inside of you contains somebody that loves Eclipse and wants to see him dead.
oh yeah, there's so many conflicting emotions about all sorts of stuff. It's it's a really interesting situation I've concocted for myself.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I got a couple questions about that later too. Okay, so we'll stick with realms. Eddie, what is your favorite / least favorite part about knowing your sister still lives on in some small way within Nafika? So we talked about this a little bit last time. It seems like you may have had a bit more time to process, but I don't know.
It's still incredibly complicated how Eclipse feels about this entire situation, because for all intents and purposes, Nafiko was Eclipse's first real friend, and then he spent basically his entire life, well, not his entire life, but you know, for all intents, how old is he now? I'm trying to do math now. Like, yeah, about half of his adult life. Half of his life. Math is hard. I am words right now.
It's all good.
He's barely an adult, right?
I know, right?
Yeah, he's young too, right?
Oh yeah, no. Eclipse is only 18 years old.
That's right. I keep forgetting that.
He was taken away when he was very young. So it's been about 10 years since he was taken away. So he spent 10 years thinking his sister was dead, and then suddenly she appears out of the blue and is also the same person as the person that he has formed this bond with, and now he's having to sort of rebuild a bond with someone that he hasn't been around for almost all of his life. And yeah, there's a lot to process with that. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that they're finally starting to come to terms with the fact that, you know, they are alive and they exist within this person, but is still not entirely sure what to do with that, especially just considering how complicated his feelings are with all of Nafiko's various personalities.
Sure, yeah. Do you think, now obviously there's going to be a lot of sort of overt emotion, right? Shock and whatever, but like, do you think somewhere down there, like there is sort of at least happiness or maybe not acceptance of the reality, but just happiness that he can kind of experience her in some form or fashion? There's
definitely a little bit there. I mean, the last I'm trying to remember, was it 2 episodes ago or the last one? But there was a moment where Light and Eclipse had a brief interaction together that sort of brought them back to the past, at least for a brief moment. And there was a little bit of that comfort of that somewhat familiar sibling connection, but it's definitely not fully developed yet at this point.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because again, I mean, I say you guys had a very brief moment after the Artificer's Tower, but you guys still haven't stopped. I mean, like we had talked about it, I think, before you guys were going to maybe take a you know, whatever happened to like shopping episodes. But no,
it's been an eventful 2 weeks.
You guys just keep going around the frozen expanse, blowing shit up.
I mean, we had a fetch quest that turned into us going to the big bad.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
We had a fetch quest that took us right to the big bad guy, and now all of a sudden we ended up on another side quest that took us right to another big bad guy.
Yeah, we thought we were fighting the mini boss, and then we got accidentally boarded the train straight to...
Yeah, and that was thought. I had a bunch of jokes last week about Eclipse looking in a stupid hole, and all of a sudden, shit, it ends up taking you right to Pyreal. So whatever, you guys Mr. Beaned your way there. So all right,
little
cool.
bit.
Yeah,
the good buddies in a nutshell.
Exactly. Okay, so the next one is the one you had just mentioned. So there are within Nafika, there's at least one other male thing. I don't know, person. Yeah, person. Sure. Okay, cool. So we'll skip down to this one. Cerise and Nafiko are very two distinct, different characters. But do you see, or what do you see as the through line between them?
Yeah, that was a thoughtful question from Renee. So when I remember when I was describing this character, somebody, Jesse, who had played Tallulah, said, "You always play these characters who are like, I'm so innocent, tee-hee, also I'm going to smash you," like. And I feel like there is something to that. Like both Cerise and Nafiko, the core personality at least, have like this sort of like purity to them, right? Where this like sort of optimism and just sweetness. Now obviously Nafiko's 8 characters secretly, so she has a lot going on. Too much, maybe some might say, but
yeah, I think that would be.
I remember the last time I was on, it was literally like the episode before all of this was about to pop off, and I was like, I don't know how much I should say.
Yeah,
because I knew it was all gonna come apart next episode. But
I think Nafiko or that type of character, is a double-edged sword for like yes, it would be very difficult, but like you get to literally you get to be a bunch of different things. Like it's 8 characters in one, so
it's really fun. It's really fun, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to do this.
So I know you talked a little bit about this last time, but I'll go and follow up with it here. We've heard mention of like, so I think this was after the last time you guys were on. You have the feline dash from Light. You have this and that from the. So talk about a little bit about that construction process and what that was like, because that seems very crazy.
A lot of back and forth on what the mechanics of this were going to be with Solo, and like so the initial concept for this character was a changeling. That was like the first thing I asked, like, can I be a changeling? And like for various reasons we decided we wanted to do something more than a changeling. Partially I think it was because at the time we thought there were going to be like a changeling on every show that was spinning up at the time, which did not pan out to be true. Right. But we decided we'd make something different, and so then I was like, well, what if I just like could swap out the race on D&D Beyond and like had this like amalgamation? And then we decided that was like actually would just break things with D&D Beyond, so we sort of were like, okay, we'll just take like sort of these like fun cosmetic features and incorporate them.
Yeah, I think it's cool, like, because I mean, like, feline agility doesn't necessarily break anything, and a couple other things you did, it adds a lot of cool RP moments to see that sort of stuff come to life. I like it. Okay, sort of hopping off the Realms train, no pun intended. Eddie, what do you miss most about art?
Everything. Honestly, art holds a really special place in my heart. I put a lot of thought and a lot of heart into that character. I mean, for crying out loud, how many opportunities do I have to come up with a character where literally I have to figure out what the heat points of butter or mayonnaise are, or the flash point, I mean, excuse me. So it's like, I loved being able to just, go through all these mental gymnastics and figure out these puzzles that I can solve for how to come up with these ridiculous contraptions that he would make. And I mean, honestly, it's kind of interesting. He ended up turning into a much more caring character than I initially was imagining him to be, which is, I guess, just kind of funny the way that's how characters go. You have an idea in your head of how they're going to be, but then as soon as you start playing them, they turn into something somewhat different. Yeah. I never expected to become best friends with a skunk, things like that, but just, I miss art a lot. And if there's ever an opportunity that I can find an excuse to bring him back again, I'm certainly going to.
Yeah. And I try to do, like, there are a lot of characters that I have, like first characters and stuff like that. So I try to even just pull some aspects of them and not recreate them necessarily, but just try to, just to stay attached to them, pull some aspects of them into new characters that I like. So it, losing a beloved character or at least stop playing a beloved character is always difficult. Which reminds me to tune into Wizards tonight.
Yeah, the only other thing that I was going to add to that is just that, it's the only thing that's always hard with, this is always kind of the way it goes with campaigns. Campaigns end early. Either things, trickle off, or, scheduling or whatever, what have you. But there definitely was a lot left to unpack with art that we barely even scratched the surface on. So another reason why I hope to eventually bring it back at some point.
For sure. And that's why I kind of like how everything is or will eventually be connected somehow to Ukador. So like, doesn't matter the campaign, you could probably swing putting a character back in, which is why my damn warlock will eventually rise again.
We're busy having tea.
That's true. We are. We should both come back at some point together. Okay, Lizzy, actually, this is what you were just talking about. So why is the Good Buddies the perfect name for Realm Season 2?
Because we're buddies and we're good.
Boom, done.
Mic drop.
It's funny though, like that name started out as like, I mean, obviously it was off the cuff. And it was
I know.
And it was ridiculous. And it was in character, so it was definitely something she would say at the time. And yes, that Solo hates it. But it does sort of work. Like that's why it hasn't gone away really. Like
well, and it's sort of like there's nothing that's better. Oh my god, my neighbor's dog. I assume you guys can hear. But I don't know. I think I was actually thinking of like how Kiwin just kept saying we're all best friends. We're best friends. Like she kept saying that over and over in like the first few episodes. That's why I said the Good Buddies. I was like, yeah, we're all friends. We're good buddies. Like, and I was hoping somebody would, but as soon as I said it, I'm like, oh no, what have I done?
Yeah, it's stuck for sure. Diane just put I both hate it and love it, and I think I'm like really in the exact same boat. Like it shouldn't be like when you think D&D name, like badass, like metal cover of a CD type thing, and then you guys are the Good Buddies. But at the same time, it, like I said, it just fucking works. Like it worked. Like you guys are all sort of young, all kind of naive a little bit, and you guys are just good buddies exploring the world.
Yeah, and I will say you were an inspiration, but I will take full responsibility, Diane. Don't worry.
Yeah. You brought the friendship bracelets. Nafiko made the name. Okay. All right. Cool. Eddie, it seemed like you were hesitant to attune to the sword. Was this based on Eclipse's character or something within it, or just a general mistrust of Solo? I think that was Taryn that asked that.
That's honestly, I mean, that mistrust of Solo didn't have anything to do with it. This was entirely a character choice. It was a combination of the fact that partially Eclipse still he's grown a lot more comfortable around magic and everything associated with it, but he still doesn't fully trust it, except outside of using it as a means to an end. And the sword was definitely one of those, curiosity and ooh, shiny thing, kind of curious must play. But at the same token, we also had a job to do, and this dragon that admittedly Eclipse might have felt even the slightest tinge of guilt over, because for all intents and purposes, it's kind of their fault that the dragon got out and started attacking this town.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, that's true.
So there was that, now this is something that they would never say out loud because, of course, Artificer had to die, what have you, but still, it's like, let's finish this. More people don't have to die on my account.
Is that so? You had the cloak, right? You were attuned to the cloak.
Mm-hmm.
So what all have you had to? I mean, has he used it a lot? Has he had to overcome that sort of hiccup of magic for a couple items at this point?
So the cloak. Well, I mean, now mind you, I think it's more just around like if it's an item of particular. Like for the cloak in particular, it just makes him more stealthy. And yes,
I guess it's a little different for the sword.
Yeah, it's different with the sword because I'm not going to say too much to avoid spoiling anything before it happens. I'm sure some people probably already know about the weapon, but let's just say that there are some abilities that Eclipse will have as a result of this sword that up until now would have been something that would have been rather foreign to him.
Right. I also think it's super dope that the person that doesn't trust magic is the first one to use a cursed item.
Oh, of course, yeah.
That I guess that would be Solo's fault.
Again, means to an end.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is definitely his MO.
which I guess technically right now, I mean, it is a talking sword, and those don't typically go well. But right now, if we take it at face value, it wants to kill Pyriel. So if you guys believe he's evil, then I guess you wouldn't inherently think it's cursed, if it's wanting to do something good. So we shall see. All right, cool. All right, this is the one I was talking about or alluding to earlier. So how difficult is it to adhere to each of the individual's wills within Nafika, especially when they might make a mess?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's hard not to meta this, right? This is why sometimes you gotta leave it to the dice rolls.
Yeah.
I honestly sometimes I do think about it in a meta way though, where it's like what serves the story the best and then sometimes I'm like, okay, give it a chance. All right, I rolled a 1. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I sort of try to weigh the like what I think would benefit the story and what would like sort of where they're going. Because for example, up until the episode where like her memories were unleashed and her personalities woke up, I actually wasn't sure if Nafiko and Elida were going to be distinct personalities, Elida being the necromancer's daughter, because initially this creation just centered on Elida's personality, but I decided that I didn't want to lose the like innocent Nafiko.
Oh yeah, I guess because Nafiko's not like a real thing, right?
Right,
She literally
yeah.
is the amalgamation of everything else.
Right.
Oh God! So even she has some sort of weird, trippy thing to
Yeah,
eventually
she's
overcome.
right. This is one of like the things in the episode afterwards where like
Think about that.
one of them were the other personalities are like she's not real.
Right,
We're the real
right.
people. And
Jesus.
that's like a little bit of an inner struggle, which is
Yeah.
actually why Nafiko is slightly less like she's trying to make room for everybody else, so she is like slightly less on the probability chart.
Right. She probably feels a little like she doesn't want to take up their time because they're like real people. and
Right.
she's not.
She feels pretty guilty about it. She doesn't know what to do but like if she were able to like use a wish spell to undo everything, she wouldn't exist anymore. And she doesn't want to not exist. Though
There's a
we
lot
did
to unpack
have-
with that.
Wow.
Yeah. Although I'll say we had some interesting precedent with somebody who's an amnesiac having a second personality, getting that separated out of them in Wizards, with somebody who is still alive in Realms.
Mm-hmm.
Huh,
So
that's true.
I did write that down in my notebook of things that happened.
Okay, well, since this just got asked in chat, and it goes along with Nafiko and being a real person or not. But so since the truth of the multis and the artificer has been revealed, is Nafiko still searching for that crane?
Oh my god.
Like, does she still have her own aspirations and things? I guess she would, but
Yeah,
like
I
maybe
mean,
taking a back seat.
so like what? So Nafiko actually did dream about honkers. Like she did see honkers in her dream, and she just thought it was a crane because she'd never seen a crane before, and it seemed close enough. Which is why she was so insistent on this being the crane. And also felt like maybe I should hang out with these people. She didn't really have much of a plan past like taking her orders at this lake. Like her initial plan was to just return back to the temple where she'd been sort of sequestered because the Cranes, her organization, didn't want, like they weren't really sure what she was gonna do because she was created by this necromancer. Like everything we encounter that was made by the artificer, we have like this seed of doubt of like, is it evil because he made it?
Right.
So she'd been just sort of quarantined for quite a while, and she like literally just left, be like, I am gonna prove I'm good by being a holy knight, and now the situation is totally spiraled out of control.
Right.
So
think
she's
that's
just
the
sort of going
beauty.
with the flow right now.
I think that's the beauty of like it can be a difficult, challenging thing, but also the beauty of like playing young characters, not like Eclipse young. Like Eclipse is like young, but he's like world traveled and has experienced a bunch of stuff. But like somebody who's young and like literally was a farmer 3 months ago, or something like that is fun because you literally do just like your aspirations and goals grow with the game. So that's kind of a neat way to do it, I think. Cool. All right, that's good to know. Man, that's crazy. I didn't even think about that with Nafika. That's gonna be really fucked up later. Cool.
Mhm.
Okay, so Eclipse. Eclipse sort of slipped up almost calling Carrick by his name. Did he stop himself because he wasn't ready, or because he hadn't asked permission, or what was the reason he kind of caught himself on that?
So at this point in time, Eclipse has already made a bond of trust with all of the good buddies at this point. So there's no real reservations to referring to everyone by name in general. The main reason why Eclipse was hesitant in that exact moment was because we were suddenly surrounded by this group of constructs that we had questionable alliances with, and therefore names are information that can be used against us.
Gotcha. So it was more of a reconnaissance type thing of just wanting to do spy shit.
Yeah, no, let's you don't give your name to someone you don't know. Like, what why would you do that?
That's fair. It's a good thing they're all dead now. All right, cool.
So rough.
Oh, that hurt.
Yeah.
No, I was like, oh, you were made in the time when he was slightly less evil.
Yeah. I mean, and it stinks because, like, I mean, there was nothing you could do, but like there speaking of information, there was information probably that you guys could have gathered as well had you had more time or whatever, but you guys were like, you know, obviously speeding towards the inevitable. Okay, so we got about 10 minutes left, so let's go ahead and do some wizard stuff. All right, Lily's thoughts on Thegan post prom.
Loathing.
Well, we can start at the beginning. We can start at the beginning.
All right. You're right.
Prom.
No, okay. Let's do the whole journey.
Yeah.
Okay. So, at prom, Lily and Thegan had like a surprisingly good talk. Where I don't know. I felt like we bonded. It was by threatening each other, but he just did it in like such a like, I'm being the big brother of Rook. Don't hurt her, like, or I'll kill you, like.
Yeah.
And I'm like, aw, that's adorable. Don't hurt her, or I'll kill you.
Right.
Because hey, I can be tough too.
Right.
Right. So like, I was like, okay, hey, like maybe there's something here. Like I feel like we have aligned goals. So literally during the episode, in the first break before all of the stuff with Magnus and Othello happened, I sent a letter to Thegan from Lily being like, hey, like I think our goals like probably aligned. Do you want to like actually work together? To which Thegan rejected my plans.
Not
outright. Some things.
Not outright.
And then told me that that me being involved with Rook would lead to pain and misery.
It's fair.
That is a direct quote, pretty much. And Lily did not take kindly to that. So then she sent a very biting letter back. Also having learned about Thegan's plans to conspire with Magnus.
After the Othello stuff.
So
Magnus stuff.
Yeah, so like I feel like in the timeline she probably like literally did send that letter to you that day, and then like got heard back from you, and she's just like, you know what, fuck you, Thegan.
Yeah.
And then Thegan, you know, wrote back explaining himself, trying to get a dig in, but Lily cannot be shamed in that way.
Sure. And it is a dig to him. Like if somebody said it to him, he'd be like, fuck you.
Yeah. And she's just like, what's a revolution without a little dancing? Does not compute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, Lily is very mad at Thegan, just like pretty much all of House Silverthorn.
Yeah. I think that's one of the questions, and I guess we can kind of jump down to that, and we'll start with Eddie because it's kind of the same question. What are post Othello's conversation with Silverthorn? What is Silverthorn's thoughts on Thegan?
Boy, that's you see, Evdar really wants to see the good in everyone and is incredibly struggling with the events that just happened and the fact that our good friend Thegan is not turning out to be such a good guy, and how could they possibly want to do this to all the teachers? They can't all be bad. Why would you do this? Yeah,
it's you know, it sort of goes back to the everyone's the hero of their own story and that sort of stuff, particularly with Thegan. Cody just wrote, Thegan knows how to write, question mark. Yeah, he does. So that's kind of the whole thing with him, is that he's sort of been predestined in everyone's eyes to be this sort of big Goliath brute, but he's also a really good, smart wizard. Like his intelligence is higher than his strength. But
I mean, he spends a lot of time in the library.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and that's the thing with, so trying to think if I want to like how spoilery it kind of goes back to the first question. The stuff with Othello and Magnus, I'll just say he has his position on the Hessian Empire, which is probably not far out of line than almost everyone else at that school. But he also typically has at least 4 or 5 plans running at any time. And I'll say that's true from the first show that I played him on. So the very first thing, he had a goal, and he had 4 or 5 ways to achieve that. That goal has shifted since then. And I will say this, there's only 2 instances. Magnus was the only mistake I would say that Thegan's made in his own plan. And that being that Thegan did not anticipate Magnus getting pulled from his body and Othello being like chill and having all the memories and shit. That was his only mistake. And then there's been one other time where he's been like shit as a sort of a hiccup into his plan. But other than that, like everything he does and says has gone pretty fucking according to plan. So that's why I'm really nervous for this tonight and like 2 weeks from now, because like a lot of this shit's gonna culminate and we'll see how it planned out. But I don't know.
Now that you've made an enemy of House Silverthorn.
Yeah. See, and that was the thing too. Like that was what Solo was talking about before we started. So Thegan has, yes, everyone's been apprehensive of him, and no one's particularly liked him. But up until that freaking Magnus thing, that's why I said it was his only mistake. He hadn't actually had any enemies per se.
Right.
Now he does. So that was kind of his, like, from his perspective, that was like, fuck, I misstepped. So interesting. Okay, cool. Let's see here.
I mean, I will put it out there that Evdar still wants to see the good in Thegan.
Sure.
I don't think that he's convinced just yet that Thegan is an evil person.
Right, and I don't think Thegan's evil. He just has his way of doing things. But yeah, I don't think
I'll say that even Lee doesn't necessarily think Thegan is evil, but she does think he's a threat and an enemy right now.
Yeah. I don't know. Would that be as 2 members of Silverthorn, is that the general consensus, is that it's the school, it's Trayvonis, and it's Thegan? Like, is Thegan a threat on your board?
Yeah.
Ronan asks, as he wants to know.
To be honest, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Damn.
Yeah, I don't know that necessarily all of Silverthorn is entirely 100% in alignment with regards to what that means, but yes.
You are in our, like, when we're talking about the things we need to manage, the threats that are putting impending doom on the school.
Yes,
you are now on the list.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like on the radar, what that means, we're not necessarily as in agreement on, but definitely on the radar.
Shit. All right, whatever. Okay, let's continue this train, I guess. I don't know who this was from. Oh, this was from Rook from Terran too. With all the new information that Lily and Ubdar have gotten about Thegan, how has their perception changed of Rook and of Thegan and Rook's dynamic? So is Rook on that scale? I know what you're going to say, Lizzie, but
Lily. Yeah.
what about Rook?
I mean, honestly, our letter did change some things I thought and assumptions I had, like especially your second letter, where I'd like sort of put out all of my assumptions to you to see what you would say.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you sort of came back and was like, no, like Rogue made all of these choices for herself. Like I did not make these suggestions for like the pain and misery that she's path going. So that opened some questions for Lily, and she has been poking Rook behind the scenes about that. But I mean, in terms of like threat assessment, no, not at all, because
Yeah,
she did fight
just-
you. So
Sure, she's worth redemption. And oh, the hypocrisy. All right, what about Ebdar?
So, I mean, the main thing with Ebdar is that almost all the information that he has gotten regarding this entire situation has all been secondhand. So it's been really difficult for him to piece everything together. But as far as his threat assessment of Rook, I think more than anything, he probably just feels protective of Rook, just making sure that Thegan is not a threat to her, but also at the same time trying not to interfere with the existing dynamic that's going on between Lily and Rook, and making sure that, you know, like there's still that protective nature, but like not that I'm not going to get in the way
Yeah,
to, you know,
it's a
to
weird
save you
relationship,
or
and
anything
actually,
sort of thing.
I think now between Rook and Thegan, the only other person that really kind of has an deeper insight into it would be Lily. Like she's the only one that I think I've told that. Like I didn't literally, I forced her to do nothing. Like she came to me and was like, will you help me with XYZ? And I'm like, and she's like, yeah, do it. And I'm like, all right, I'll do it. Like, you know, so, all right, cool. We're almost out of time. Okay. Real quick question from the chat. Is there someone special for Ebdar?
That is a great question that remains to be seen. The only thing that I can say with that, you know, may or may not have been blatantly put out there, is that Ebdar definitely does feel for someone, but that person is currently preoccupied.
Sure. Just it's adorable. He needs to find somebody. Okay. What are your final question for both of you? We'll start with Lizzy. What are your thoughts and expectations for the Wizard show tonight?
I have no clue what's gonna happen. I have no idea. I feel so blank. Like, what is gonna pop off? I assume we'll maybe find out who Voltok is. Maybe Donadel will get murdered by Travanis. Like I like there's so many plot threads and threats.
Yeah.
Like is he gonna show up too? Because Thegan's plan, he like gets Magnus's, or like I don't know. There's so many things that could happen.
Not to mention that there are conversations that I know that at least I want to have, and it's like I don't talk with any of these people for like months.
I know.
Oh,
right,
because this is it, and then this is season finale.
Right.
God,
yeah. That's why there were so many
stuff.
messages behind the scenes this week for me.
I can't imagine. I mean, it is solo, so I don't know, but I can't imagine all of those threads. I mean, some of those threads are going to be left hanging. Like they gotta be. There's like 400 of them. Like there's so much stuff.
A lot of threads.
Oh, all right. What are you thinking, Eddie? What's gonna happen?
What's gonna happen tonight? I honestly don't know. Like there are so many scenarios that I am playing in my head for where tonight's gonna go, and honestly, it could be any of them. I just, you know, I hope that the only thing that I can say is that I hope that we all end up surviving, which I think is the question on everyone's mind.
Yeah, I think whatever it's gonna be crazy for sure. And I kind of hope, because outside of like mine and Ben's pretty much RP battle, there hasn't been a lot of dice rolls recently, so
no.
Might be about time to break out that spell book.
You know,
right?
Funny that you mentioned that, because, you know, especially for Ebdar, who is the School of Evocation Wizard, he has not been given an excuse to have to go on the offensive, and I'm very curious if there will be a circumstance which will push him to that point.
Yeah, that's true. Well, like when Solo come back and he was like, "Hey, we're going to do these Q&As. I want you to do War Magic." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna have to go read about War Magic." Like,
right? Yeah, I had that same feeling. I'm like, but we haven't really played.
Yeah, it's been like I've used some features. I've used, which is good. Once I read it, I was like, okay, I've used these features before, but I haven't really like gotten to a deep battle with them in a long time. So, all right, cool. Well, I think that is going to be the end of our show. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Go ahead and enter raffle to be entered into the Between Show giveaway. And of course, next up is that Wizards episode that we were just talking about. Oh God. So until next week, for Fawks' sake, be nice to each other.